Hi, greetings and shalom. This is Jayon George, and you're watching In Such an Hour. I want to just point out something to you today that I believe is very, very critical for all of us to understand, whether you're a Christian or not, whether you believe in Jesus or not. It is critical that you understand something that's happening in our world today. And I've decided to do this by popular demand because a lot of people have asked me recently, who is ISIS? What are they about? What's all of this Islamic stuff? Are they a type of Muslim? What's going on? And so I've decided to address some of these issues. I can't answer all of that right now, but I will share some of it. Let me just make this disclaimer. I don't claim to be an expert on Islam or an expert on ISIS and terrorism and all of that stuff. There's a lot of stuff that I don't understand, but what I do know is what I'm about to share with you. And there are some things that I do know for sure, and I'm going to share it with you. My responsibility to share what I know. I'm a contender for the faith, and I would share things that I believe is relevant. And I believe it is important for all of us to understand that ISIS is here in America. But let me first explain who ISIS is, what they are all about. The ISIS the phrase, or the ISIS is really an acronym. ISIS. It's an acronym for Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. And they're pretty much a group of Sunni Muslims that joined together to pursue what is called the caliphate, and I'll try to explain the caliphate in a little bit. But they're a bunch of Sunni Muslims, and if you understand Islam, you understand that there are only two types of Muslims. There are the Sunnis and the Shiites. And so ISIS members or ISIS militants are pretty much Sunni Muslims. Someone asked me, so what about Al-Qaeda and Taliban and Hamas and Hezbollah and Khorasan and the Muslim Brotherhood? Are these different types of Muslims? No, they are not. To answer that question, they are not different types of Muslims. Those are different groups of radical extremists. That is the radical part of the Islamic religion. Not all of Islam, however, is at war and believes in what a lot of these terror organizations believe in. So to answer the question, there are only two types of Muslims, and these organizations or these groups that I just talked about, they are basically extremists, Islamic extremism that form themselves into different sects, into different groups that is threatening to strike this world with terror. And there's another term around ISIS that you would hear. It's interesting to me that the president, though the group have called themselves ISIS, the president and his cabinet and this government, this administration in America has decided or insists on calling them ISIL, ISIL, which stands for the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. Rather than the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria is the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, Levant, which speaks of a broader control. The whole purpose of ISIS is about control. They want to acquire territory over which they would rule and implement what is called Sharia law. If you want to understand what Sharia law is pretty much Islamic rule. And to explain that, to summarize that, it's about having Islamic rule in politics, in economics, in banking, in the way education is done, business, even your sexuality, and a whole myriad of social issues would be governed based on Islamic teachings. So that's what is called Sharia law. For example, if a woman commits adultery under Sharia law, she is to be put to death. And so there is the belief among Muslims that the world even must be Islamized, and so they would love for the world to be Islamized and for the entire world to be governed based on the Sharia law and what the Islamic religion teaches. However, that is not the case for all of Islam. That does not speak for all of Islam. And so ISIS, to go a little bit deeper, is pretty much the remnant of the Saddam Hussein regime. Remember, 10 years ago, America invaded under President Bush, invaded Iraq and pretty much overthrew the government and took over and dismantled the dictatorship of Saddam Hussein in Iraq and pretty much had put him to death. Well, not pretty much, they did put him to death. And so they had killed a lot of his generals. However, there are a lot of them that had not been killed, they had not been found, they had not been captured. And they are the ones that pretty much are rising up today. Some of them are high-ranking officials from the Saddam Hussein regime that are carrying out the atrocities that you see happening all across the world. And so they believe, like I said, in what is called the Islamization. And so that's why you see they are involved in what is called sectarian warfare. Sectarian warfare is pretty much the different groups of Sunnis and Shiites, the different extremist groups fighting against each other for supremacy, fighting against each other for rule, about who's going to rule and who's going to take over and who's going to do this. As a matter of fact, ISIS is an affiliate of Al-Qaeda. They claim to be an Al-Qaeda affiliate, and you would hear different terms used interchangeably sometimes. But so you've got to understand what's happening, and that's why I wanted to share some of this. I mentioned the caliphate a little while ago. The caliphate is pretty much a system, a belief system among Muslims, among certain groups of Muslims, that there is coming one that's going to succeed the Prophet Muhammad, who is called the Caliph, or he's pretty much the Islamic Messiah, some of them call him. In fact, there's a lot of parallels to that with regards to what the Bible has to say about the Antichrist. However, the Caliphate is about the calling or the ushering of a system that's ruled by Sharia law and ruled by Islam itself. And that's why I use the term Islamization. And that's why they would say to you or to anyone that they capture, convert to Islam or die. It's either you convert to Islam or be beheaded. And some of them are what is called jihadists. They don't care. They believe that if they die, they would get virgins in heaven. They believe in dying for their cause. And that's why it's very tough to fight against terror. It's very difficult to fight against this. However, all of this is important. But what's really, really important for you to understand is that a lot of people from these groups are in the United States. How did they get here? Some of them got here from U.S. passports. Certain ISIS members or terrorists, they don't have a particular profile anymore. It can be someone among us that have been recruited by them. They look just like normal people with U.S. passports or Canadian passports or British passports that have been recruited by the ISIS militants, have been trained there to carry out horrendous acts of terror here in the homeland, in the United States and all over the world. In fact, they have made a bold declaration to kill anyone, anywhere you can in the world and carry on the work of Allah, or carry on what they believe in terms of jihad. And so you've got to understand what this is. And the governor of Texas, Rick Perry, has already made it clear that ISIS members have come across the Mexican-Texas border in the mixed multitude. And so I'm saying this to warn people to be very, very careful when you go to theme parks, when you go into buildings. Those of you particularly living in New York City, to watch what's happening, because it's serious. They are rising everywhere by the thousands, and it's very difficult to fight against this. So my encouragement to you is keep your eyes, your ears open. And as they say in New York City, if you see something, say something. So thank you for looking. Spread this news. Share this on your Facebook page. Share this on your social media, whatever media you use. And let this information go out to other people so that they too can understand what's happening and be prepared for what's coming. Because we're living in perilous times, like the Word of God says. And none of this is to scare us, especially if you're a believer. But it's to help you to be aware of what's going on. So thank you again for watching. And stay tuned for more from In Such an Hour. Be blessed.